Bar to Berkeley Square.
But Patty's only seen the sights a girl can see from Brooklyn Heights. What a crazy pair, but they're cousins, identical cousins all the way. One pair of matching bookends, different as night and day.
Where Kathy adores a minuet, the ballet russe, and crepe Suzette.
Our Patty loves to rock and roll, a hot dog makes her lose control. What a wild duet, still they're cousins, identical cousins, and you find they laugh alike,
They walk alike,
at times they even talk alike. You can lose your mind when cousins are two of a kind.
Here's Kathy, who's lived most everywhere, from Zanzibar to Berkeley Square.
But Patty's only seen the sights a girl can see from Brooklyn Heights.
Hello everybody, I'm Al Cressy and I'm back here at 8 Remsen Street in Brooklyn Heights. And this of course was the house, the Lane household. And I'm here to reshoot that video that I shot last June. It's season 1, episode 12 of the animated show, How to Be Popular. So once again, I'm going to walk the same steps that our beloved Anna walked, Anna Marie Duke, in the Patty Duke show. And it's great to be back here. It's only the second time I've ever been here. It's great to be back here again. The episode of How to Be Popular first aired December the 4th, 1963. So just this past weekend, today being the 6th of December, so 2 days ago it was the 58th anniversary when the show was first aired on ABC, Channel 7 WABC here in New York, as well as all the other ABC stations around the country, because it was an ABC sitcom that ran, as you know, for 3 seasons. So it's a thrill to be back here in Brooklyn Heights in front of the Lane household, and let's retrace the steps Patty took. Once again, here's the front of the house. I don't really want to stick my camera in the window and bother people, and a lot of people walk here and they walk on the promenade, and it's such a great neighborhood. But I'll be willing to bet that hardly anybody knows, unless they're my age, that they know that this house has quite a bit of television history to it. You're going to see in one of the clip where the Kathy character walked outside and there was a wall, black wall. And there is a wall behind that door. This is not a single-family house as it was depicted in the show. It's really a condo, and there's a number of people who live here. Of course, the inside shots were in the studio, which is now Chelsea Studios. It was called something else back in the 60s, but now, and according to my research, I believe the studio they used was Studio B on the 2nd floor at Chelsea Studios, and that is now the home of the Wendy Williams show. But as far as I know, season 1, episode 12 was the only time they did or shot outside scenes of this house and along the promenade. So season 1, episode 12 is the only episode of the 104 episodes of the Patty Duke show where they shot on location. So let's go walking those steps.
You Can Be Popular by Aunt Jane.
Okay, so in that episode, the Kathy character wrote away to an Aunt Jane, who's a columnist for the New York Chronicle, that gave advice to people looking to be popular. So she wrote away and received this pamphlet in the mail, How to Be Popular by Aunt Jane. So she didn't want anybody at that point to know that she had written away from the pamphlet. So she received it in the mail, told Patty that I'll see you later. If you remember the episode, I'm sure you do. So she walked out of the house and walked along this way. And you can see the buildings in the background. So right about here, she opened up the pamphlet and a piece of paper kind of fell on the ground too that I noticed. And but they kept shooting the scene. She had the envelope and the pamphlet in her hand, and she kind of stood here and she looked at it and it said, How to Be Popular by Aunt Jane. So she was really happy about that. And then she continued walking, and the scene will continue when she stops at the park bench, and I'm going to sit in the exact place where she sat when she was reading the pamphlet.
Anyone can be popular, but there are certain rules that you must follow. Are you willing to do this? Oh, yes. There are a few simple tricks that will help you. For instance, when you're out with your date and you find yourself tongue-tied, smile. Wider. Rule 1. Popular people are generous people. They give of themselves. Offer to help your friend. Yes, I'll do it right away. You're a smart boy.
Okay, I'm up here on the promenade, had her pamphlet in hand, and came running over to this park bench. This is where she sat, right where I am now. And you can see the buildings in the background a little bit. The camera was kind of tilted up a little bit. So in other words, if my cameraman, my friend Brian Buchanan, if he bends down a little bit and kind of shoots up this way, you can see exactly what I'm talking about. So she's reading the pamphlet, and it's goes through all of the rules and so forth of how to be popular. And then when she gets all excited, she's really learned something. So then she got up in the last scene and went running back toward the house. So I'm going to do that, just try to emulate what you saw in the episode. So then there's another scene that we'll shoot in a minute that shows you when she was with a friend of hers that was played by the actor Joey Trent, when they were coming up the incline from the ground level of where the house is up here to the promenade.
The more about them, the more interested they know you are. Rule 3. Be interested. Ask questions. Hello, Craig.
Hello, Kathy. Is Patty home?
No, she isn't. Can I help you?
I just want to return her math book.
Oh, I'll give it to her for you.
Okay, thank you. I never did thank you for helping me with my Latin.
That's all right.
It was really nice of you. Well, I mean, you don't find many girls who go out of their way to help you with your Latin.
I was glad to do it.
You're a very unusual girl, Kathy.
Am I?
Maybe it's because you were brought up in Europe. But you're awfully continental. In a nice way, I mean. And you're very honest.
Rule 2.
What?
I make it a rule 2.
Oh.
I mean, nobody likes a dish rack.
Later on in the series, her friend Craig, that was played by Joey Trent, and he was an interesting guy. I did a little research on Joey Trent. He was somebody that knew Patty very well, knew Anna very well. There was a picture taken in Call Me Anna, the autobiography, of him dancing with her because they were trying to show that Anna had a normal childhood as a teenager, which we all know it was anything but normal. But Joey Trent was in Peter Pan, and he was in a couple of other productions, and he was born in April of 1945, right at the end of World War II, and unfortunately he died in October of 2009. So he was 64 years old. He didn't live to be that old, unfortunately. But he was in several episodes of the Patty Duke Show. But anyway, he had returned an algebra book to her, as you saw in the scene, and it was right here at the door. And Kathy, of course, was trying to ask him questions, and she's trying to follow the advice that was given to her in the book, how to be popular. So she struck up a conversation with him. So, and he was interested in talking with her at that time. So they walked this way, and then eventually up the ramp to the promenade. So I'm going to just follow the kind of the path the way it was. And what I find interesting is if you look at that clip, you'll notice that the cobblestones are exactly the same. The fencing around the promenade is exactly the same. They haven't changed anything. That park bench that I sat at, it's exactly the park bench we sat at. I don't see anything different. The fencing over here is exactly the same. You know, we're talking 58 years ago, a long time ago. Anyway, so they came up this way, and the camera was looking walking up the stairs.
Like that. You're very interesting. I'm usually pretty shy around girls, but you're very easy to talk to.
So are you. I'm usually shy around boys.
You? Oh, you're kidding me. You probably dated a lot of older men. Europeans. I'll bet they're different, aren't they?
They've had more experience, but they've been at it longer.
Yeah.
Stairs, just the ramp, just like I'm doing now. So they got right up to the top, and that's when she made the comment was the boys in Europe were at it a lot more for meeting girls or something to that effect.
I guess you must find us pretty boring. I mean, it must be hard for a beautiful genius like you to find someone interesting to talk to.
Thank you. It's not that hard. For example, I find you very interesting.
You do?
Definitely. I think you're very unusual.
Well, I suppose I am. Well, I dream a lot. Well, I mean, I have plans. I know what I want to do with my future. I feel you have to know what you want to be, and plan for it, and work for it.
Certainly an admirable attitude. What are you going to be, Craig?
Either a movie star or a dentist.
That's wonderful.
Well, I sure enjoyed talking to you. Bye.
Bye. Rule 3. Be interested. Ask questions. Craig?
Yes?
Where were you born?
Where was I born?
Yes.
Omaha.
Isn't that exciting?
You must be thinking of some other Omaha.
Tell me about your family.
What do you want to know?
Everything, Craig Whitlaw. Whitlaw is a very unusual name.
You know something.
What?
You have a reason for asking all these questions, don't you? Someone told you to.
Well, in a way,
I
yes.
knew it. I knew we'd never live it down. Okay, my Uncle Harvey's a bigamist. That's why we changed our name and left Omaha. But it's no use. No matter where we go, there'll always be some snoop digging up our family skeleton.
Be interested. Ask questions.
So now in this scene, she's trying to learn a little bit more about her friend Craig. So she starts asking him questions about where he's from, and they stood right here. And you can see the Queens Expressway in the background. See that building? Those two buildings in the foreground that are exactly the same as they were 58 years ago. I don't believe that big tall building is back. That wasn't there at the time. But you can see that, again, this railing is exactly the same. Right where I'm standing, it hasn't changed a bit. So she was asking him questions about his background, and he took it the wrong way, if you recall, that she was delving into his family's past, and he got really upset with her, and he ran away, and she got a little upset. Of course, it ended nicely because she taught her friends some African tribal dance that she had learned, and she became very popular after that. It had a nice ending, a funny ending to it. Of course, it was a comedy, so it had a favorable conclusion to it, and she did become popular at the end. But when he got angry with her, and we're going to look this way, he ran down this path right here, right to where I'm pointing, and he jumped over one of these park benches and ran down the promenade. You can see that if you look at the clip from the show, the promenade looks exactly the same, and that's what I find really interesting. And take a look at the skyline. Of course, the skyline in Manhattan looks different today than it did back then, but there are some buildings that are remaining the same. The most notable one that sticks out to me is that squared off building that kind of looks like a pyramid. That building is there throughout the series. You saw that on the series a number of times, and certainly that building hasn't changed. Of course, the Trade Center wasn't there at the time, but there's so many things about this area that haven't changed in 58 years. It's just really, I think it's remarkable. So once again, it took me 58 years to finally get here last June, and I'm very happy to be back here again and share some footage that emulated what you saw in the How to Be Popular episode of the Patty Duke Show. So again, thanks for joining me today, and I hope that many of us who are in the Patty Duke Appreciation Society group and maybe someday come here and visit this rather hallowed ground where Patty Duke spent quite of her time filming that series. So thanks again for being here.
And they start by pulling in their boat. And then they inspect the nets. Good. Now what? And then they push the boat to the river. Something she picked up in Africa. Bye.
Crazy.
And then, with their nets full, they go home.
Now, aside from season 1, episode 12, there were 2 occasions where there was some footage that was taken of William Shallot driving his car to the house, and he drove it up the block, which you cannot no longer do. You can't really park here anymore. But he drove up Remsen Street, parked his car right about there, and got out of his car as if he was going to walk in the house. There's the house. So once again, there were 2 times when William Shallot drove his car very quickly, it's like he's coming home from work. He came up the block, up Remsen Street, parked his car pretty much right in front of the house, and walked in. And I thought that was interesting too, because again, that fencing that you see in the background is exactly the same as it was. It hasn't changed a bit. You saw the ramp going up to the Brooklyn Promenade, the fence around it, exactly the same. This house was there, exactly the same. And again, we're talking 58 years ago. Very, very interesting. So that was in 2 different scenes in the Patty Duke show. So we'll show you that right now as well. Well, I'm here with my friend Brian Kilgannon, and Brian, thank you very much for shooting the video as you did last time. Brian, I didn't know Brian at that time. I met Brian in 1965 when we were in elementary school, and the show had just gone off the air. The last first run showing of the Patty Duke show occurred on August 31st, 1965. They had a few repeats, and then after that, sadly, the show went off the air. It lasted for 104 episodes, 3 seasons. As I'm sure most of you know, season 3 wasn't even shot here. It was shot in Los Angeles. And although the setting of the show was still Brooklyn Heights and Remsen Street, the front of the house was clearly not this. It was a house that was used in California. So unfortunately, it didn't go longer than 3 years. I think my friend Brian's got a few questions he's going to ask.
I do, Alan. Thanks so much for making this video. How long have you been following the career and the biography of Patty Duke?
Good question. Well, I started this when the show first went on the air. I had no idea what it was about, and I was only 8 years old. The show went on the air, and I thought it was very well written, and I thought it was funny. It was certainly something that was different about identical cousins, and I mean, now I know that the chances of 2 people being identical cousins are like slim to none. But it was an interesting concept, and from what I heard and from what most of you probably heard, that was Sidney Sheldon's idea that came up with that. Sidney Sheldon had created the show, and then of course later on he left the Patty Duke show and went on to I Dream of Jeannie. That was probably his best known television program, and he was a gifted writer, written a number of novels. But anyway, the show had gone on the air in 1963, and I just fell in love with the show, and I loved her, and I used to dream of meeting her, and unfortunately that never happened.
Now, Al, one other question is this. This is filmed in Brooklyn. The show was filmed in Brooklyn. Patty Duke obviously had an impact on the Brooklyn neighborhood. Did she, on her TV show, ever reference Brooklyn Heights, or for that matter, the beautiful New York Harbor here?
Well, the show was actually filmed at what is now the Chelsea Studios, and that's on West 26th Street in Manhattan. The interiors of the house weren't done here. The interior of the house was on, as I said earlier, what I believe is Studio B on the 2nd floor of Chelsea Studios at a set. And but it was always mentioned Brooklyn Heights constantly. Even the address was mentioned on the show, 8 Remsen Street. But season 1, episode 12, How to Be Popular, is the only episode that they actually went out here to do some of the shooting, you know, on location, so to speak. Everything else, if they opened the front door, you saw New York Harbor, but I think that was just the backdrop. It wasn't really New York Harbor. And we'll have a little more to say about that. We're going to go back up on the promenade.
Now, Al, Patty Duke was remarkably young when she acted on her TV show, The Patty Duke Show. Could you inform us a little bit more about her age and her career and how this particular television show helped launch her career?
Well, she was born in 1946, and you know, and some of you out there who are going to see this video know a lot more than I do. But she was born in December the 14th, 1946. But she was already a big star. Really launched her career was the Miracle Worker, which she starred with Anne Bancroft on Broadway. So she was already, she had already won an Academy Award. So she was already a big star when this show started, and the ABC Television Network wanted to really showcase her. So they created this show called The Patty Duke Show, and at that time they didn't even know what it was going to be about. It was just The Patty Duke Show. But she was already a big star, and I think to this day she is still the youngest person in television history to ever have a show named after her. After this show went off the air, she started many movies. I think it was, and I may not have quite the right figures, but I believe she was started 68 movies, and she was in like 112 different productions throughout her lifetime. I might also add that there was a scene in Me, Natalie, the movie Me, Natalie, when she was coming to visit her mother and she was on a motor scooter. That area where I ran along the promenade, recreating what was seen in episode 12, season 1. She later, after the show went off the air, there was a quick scene in Me, Natalie, where she was riding a motor scooter right along the same path. So that was the only other time, to my knowledge, that she actually promenade. And she was in scores of other movies. So she had a career.
What's remarkable about Patty Duke is this. Here we are coming up on 2022. We're talking about an actress who was born in 1946. We're just about 4 or 5 years away from her 80th birthday. Will there be any commemorations or celebrations of her life, say, in the years to come, would you say?
I don't know, but the Patty Duke Appreciation Society, which is a Facebook group, I've been on that for about 6 months now. In fact, I got on that just as I had put together the last video that we shot here. And that's really keeping her career alive. And I might also add that she was a very important influencer in Congress. She had made a couple of congressional appearances and trying to get funding for people with mental illness, because we all know that she suffered from bipolar disorder, which is now, it's now called bipolar disorder. It was manic depressive back then. And she fought long and hard to get funding for people that had those types of disorders. So she was a real champion in many different ways.
Having said that now, Al, you know, she obviously was a hard worker. I mean, she was very dedicated to her craft. When the filming was done here in Brooklyn Heights, where did she live? Did she live locally, or was she in a hotel?
She lived with her managers on Park Avenue. She mentioned the cross streets in her first book, and I think doing a little research, I think she was living at 71 Park Avenue in an apartment. And, you know, she had a lot of problems with her managers. John course, was one of the associate producers of the show. I mean, he certainly was a genius as far as making a star, but we all know that she had a lot of problems with COVID. But thank you for the questions. And as I said,
One last question now. Is Patty Duke on the Hollywood Walk of Fame? Does she have a star on Hollywood
she
Boulevard?
is. I don't remember the year that she was first placed out there, but yeah, she's definitely out there, and deservedly so. So it's great to be back here, and hope all of you are enjoying this kind of reenactment of that particular episode of the Patty Duke Show. And Ryan, thanks again for taking the pictures.
Meet Kathy, who lived most everywhere, from Zanzibar to Berkeley Square. But Patty's only seen the sights a girl can see from Brooklyn Heights. What a crazy pair! But they're cousins, identical cousins all the way. One pair of matching bookends, different as night and day.
Where Kathy adores a minuet,
The ballet russe and crepe Suzette. Our Patty loves her rock and roll, a hot dog makes her lose control. What a wild duet! Still they're cousins, identical cousins, and you'll find they laugh alike, they walk alike, at times they even talk alike. You can lose your mind when cousins are two of a kind.
You know, Tell Me Mama, key of, E? Tell me, Mama, what to do if a boy makes eyes at you. Tell me, Mama, what to say when he looks at me that way. Should I let him hold my hand? Tell him that I think he's grand. Tell me, Mama, tell me what to do. I don't know what I should do, 'cause I've been taught by the golden rule. If he wants to be my steady beau, should I go and play it cool? Tell me, Mama, if it's nice. Do you know I need your advice? Tell me, Mama, it's okay if he wants to see me every day. Should I let him know I care? Do you think I should beware? Tell me, Mama, tell me what to do. Tell me what to do. Tell me what to do.
who's lived most everywhere, from Zanzibar to Berkeley Square.
But Patty's only seen the sights a girl can see from Brooklyn Heights. What a crazy pair, but they're cousins, identical cousins all the way. One pair of matching bookends, different as night and day.
Where Kathy adores a minuet, the ballet russe, and crepe Suzette.
Our Patty loves to rock and roll, a hot dog makes her lose control. What a wild duet, still they're cousins, identical cousins, and you find they laugh alike, they walk alike, at times they even talk alike. You can lose your mind when cousins are two of a kind.
Here's Kathy, who's lived most everywhere, from Zanzibar to Berkeley Square.
But Patty's only seen the sights a girl can see from Brooklyn Heights. What a crazy pair, but they're cousins, identical cousins, and you'll find they laugh alike, they walk alike, at times they even talk alike. You can lose your mind when cousins are two of a kind.